Hello, everybody, and welcome here up at BSN Network. Today is Thursday, May 19th. Hope everybody's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. We're coming off of a big night last night in sports. We obviously had the first games of the first round series or second round series for the East and the West. You had the Rangers and Hurricanes. And then you had the Flames and the Oilers, and that game was amazing. I mean, that game was awesome. 9-6 was the final. You talk about a game with a lot of scoring and a little goaltending. That game described it all. 15 goals combined. The Oilers goaltender got pulled with, I think, even like less than 5 minutes into it. Allowed 3 goals in like the first 4 minutes. It was just a really crazy game, a lot of action, and a good win for the Flames to get the series off to a right start. And for the Rangers, it took a very tough loss. That type of loss, can suck a lot out of a team. I mean, we started so good. We got the goal early by Hedl, which got created by a great play by Alexis Lafreniere. Got a great goal. The kid line was doing what they needed to do. And I mean, just, late in the game, third period, we got dominated. And I'm sitting there watching that game, and I continue to just look up at the clock on the TV, just look up, because I wanted that game to end so fast because it felt like it felt like they were spending hours in our zone, and it felt like a minute was going by every like 10 minutes. It felt so slow. It was like, just get this game over with, let's go. And we start, they continue to shoot. Igor makes saves, and it was only a matter of time. With about 2 minutes left, they ended up scoring. So we'll get into it. It's a really tough loss, and for game one. Hurricanes did not play their game in the first 2 periods. The Hurricanes, you're going to see a lot more of Carolina, what they did in the third period. Because what they did in the third period, that's the Carolina Hurricanes. First 2 periods, they were off their game. And the Rangers, to a certain extent, took advantage of it, but not to the ability that we would like. So, it's a tough one. Really tough. I think this is probably tougher than the 3 overtime loss against Pittsburgh just because Carolina's a really good team. And you had an opportunity to steal a game 1 at home, on the road against them, putting all the pressure on them in game 2, because if they fall down in game 2, you're up 2-0 going to back home. They're all of a sudden in desperation. They're 1 game away from having to play an elimination game. So, that's why it's so tough. Now, tomorrow is almost like a must-win for the Rangers because it's like going home 2-0 is just not great. I mean, I guess it's not the end of the world, but you don't want to go down 2-0. And it's one thing against Pittsburgh. We didn't go down 2-0. But it's one thing to fall down early against Pittsburgh. Carolina's a better team. So it's a tough one. Yankees got the win, which was good to see. Cole continues to roll. I mean, this rotation continues to dominate. Cole looks like his normal self. That is an ace of their rotation. Mets dominated the Cardinals yesterday, 11-4. Mets fans got to hold their breath as Scherzer left the game. Looked like out there he was pointing to his side. He'll have more imaging and testing done today is what I'm hearing coming from the Mets. So we'll see how all that plays out. Hopefully he's okay. You never want to see one of the top pitchers in baseball go down like that, and especially because he's on my fantasy team, and he's been the ace of my fantasy baseball rotation. So I need him to stay healthy if I want to win it all in my fantasy league. So hopefully he's all right. We'll see how all that plays out. We'll find out probably more later on today. Topics for today, though, is going to be 2 topics. Again, this is a morning pod, so I'll be able to get this up earlier. Yesterday was a morning video. If you didn't see yesterday's video because you weren't expecting it to get up so early, it is up. It's going to be up early. Today's going to be another early one. Tomorrow, if I can get a pod in, it's probably going to be more later. It should be the normal time if the schedule works out these 2 days here. So we're going to get into the Rangers and Hurricanes recap game 1. Like I said, a really tough pill to swallow. If you're the New York Rangers, just given the fact that you started the game so well, you had so many chances, you had so many opportunities, the Hurricanes looked lost, and you just weren't able to finish it out. So, a tough one for the Rangers. We'll recap it all and what the Rangers need to do game 2, as they are all of a sudden now in a position where if they win game 2, you're all right with it. You win game 2, you go home with a split, that's fine. But if you lose game 2 and then you let this game get to your head, that's when things can start to spiral out of control. So we'll get into all that. We'll get to Jets and Giants update. Haven't talked much football in a very long time. So we're going to talk some football today. I want to get into Jets and Giants updates. I know OTAs have started. Just a couple things about OTAs for both teams. A little about what we're seeing and some videos and what guys are saying and all that good stuff. It's nothing crazy. It's OTAs. I'm not going to read into it too much, but there are a couple things to take out of it, and I really specifically want to look at the schedules for both teams because it's been a week now that the schedules have been out, and I have yet to talk about it. I was going to do the pod on Saturday of last week, didn't end up getting the time to do that. So today I'm going to talk about kind of the update, a general update, which includes some OTA stuff, which includes some schedule, mainly schedule. Mainly I'm going to talk about the schedule, a little bit about the OTAs, and the rest of the offseason that's going on right now. And then we'll get to the New York sports update, finish things off. Like I said, Yankees today wrap up a 4-game set against the Orioles. They go for the series sweep. Mets go for the series win today. Look to take 3 out of 4 at home against the Cardinals before hosting, or before going on the road. I apologize. They go on the road after this, and I'm not sure who they play. They played, is it the Rockies? Yeah, don't they go on? Don't quote me on this. I think they go out on their, they go out to play the Rockies on the road, and then they play San Francisco. It's a little bit of that West Coast swing, like that 7-game West Coast trip that they'll be out there for. Yankees wrap up 4-game set today. So Mets go for the series win. Yankees go for the series sweep. We'll see how it all plays out. All right, so with all that being said, this is BSN Podcast, and let's get right into it. So last night was obviously game 1 of the Rangers and Carolina Hurricanes round 2 series. We obviously had games 1 on Tuesday as well. You had the Lightning and Florida Panthers and the, I'm drawing a blank here, probably will never remember it. The Lightning, Florida Panthers, and then, the Avalanche and the Avalanche and the Blues. I'm sorry. I'm drawing blanks all over the place. These morning videos, sometimes my brain's not fully working. But yeah, the Avalanche and the Blues and all that stuff on Tuesday. Yesterday, Wednesday, you had the Rangers, Hurricanes. And then you had an amazing game with the Flames and the Oilers where goaltending was completely non-existent. 15 goals combined, 9 by the Flames and 5 or 6 more by the Oilers. The Rangers game was the complete opposite. So you went from watching a game that the final... really the main action was the end of the third period and early into overtime, and then you go to the Flames-Oilers game, and it's like all the action was from period 1 all the way to period 3, just goal scoring everywhere. The first 4 minutes, and you had like 3 goals by the Flames, and it was just an amazing game. It was just a great, amazing, crazy game, high energy, crowd was into it, all that good stuff. But the Rangers game was a tough one, and as a Ranger fan, you get up today and you are really feeling kind of just like, you just feel so like, we could have, like that what if factor. Like we could have had this game, like that woulda, shoulda, coulda, is what you're kind of feeling today as a New York Ranger fan. Because the Rangers started this game. I don't think there was a better start for the New York Rangers than the way they started this game. Because they started this game with, just an amazing start. They start off, and even early on, they didn't score the first goal until 7 minutes in. So it wasn't like they scored the first goal 2 minutes in and they got off to a roaring start. But early on, they were forcing pressure in the Carolina zone. They were getting shots. They were getting good opportunities. They weren't scoring. The Rangers only scored 1 goal. But they were getting opportunities. They were getting shots on net. They had chances. They had a lot of grade A chances. I didn't look at the stats exactly of how many grade A chances they had, but I know they were up there in terms of one-timers, in terms of just shots on the net that are close. And I always go back to the one save that's gonna haunt me. There's actually 2 plays that are gonna haunt me as a Ranger fan if we don't win this series. If we go on to lose this series, and you maybe go back and pinpoint the turning point in the series, there was 2 moments in yesterday's game. It was the moment where the Rangers had the one-timer, was the kid line. I want to say it was Hedl again. Yeah, it was Hedl again that had an open net. The top part of the net was wide open. Not that he whiffed on it, but he just didn't get enough air under it. Hit off Avanti Ranta's, like the edge of his foot, like the edge of his pad, and deflected wide. The edge of it. An inch higher, that's in the net. or an inch wider, that's going right past them. And that's a play that, like, you look at it, and that's just got to give credit to Antti Raanta. He did a full-on stretch, and he was very good yesterday. He was dominant. He made 27 saves. That's a .964 save percentage, and I think it's the right decision for Carolina to roll with Antti Raanta, and it showed yesterday. And my other moment in the game was when Kaapo Kakko completely missed an open net. Raanta was looking this way. He didn't get over fast enough. I mean, it was a wide open net. Raanta had no chance of making the save. I think he actually lost track of the puck a little bit because there was two guys in front. They made the cross ice pass. They made the cross ice pass, and Kakko just overshot the net. I mean, it was wide open net. He missed it. So there's a chance right there to go up to have 3 goals. And we're talking today about a Ranger win, a dominant Ranger win. Instead, we're talking about a loss. So there's the 2 moments. But back to the start of the game. You have Philip Hedl gets the goal early, and you continue to pound pressure. And, I'm thinking to myself as a Ranger fan, in the heat of the moment, you're thinking, we love this. This is great. You want all these opportunities, and it was great. And, as a Ranger fan, I felt good coming out of that first period. I was thinking to myself, wow, we're actually winning against the Carolina Hurricanes. Not that I don't believe in the team, but Carolina is a very good hockey team. I mean, their odds to win the Stanley Cup are right up there with, the guys like the teams like the Avalanche, Florida Panthers, and all them. They're right up there with all those teams. So, a lot of people believe that coming into this season, they were the Stanley Cup favorite. A lot of people believe coming into this playoff, they are the Stanley Cup favorite. So, they are a very good team. And when you're winning against a team like that and you shut them down offensively, a team that's got such a good forecheck, they weren't even, the Rangers' forecheck was great. The Hurricanes were nowhere to be found in the first period. They was awful. They were terrible. And the Rangers were great. And they only scored 1 goal. But they were getting pressure. And as a Ranger fan, you're thinking to yourself, if we continue to get pressure, they're eventually going to fall. Well, you go to the second period, we continue to get pressure, we continue to get opportunities. They weren't going. I mean, Raanta made some great saves, and you got to give it to him. You got to give credit where credit's due. He made some great saves. And it was obviously the right decision to roll with him instead of Freddie Anderson. He made some great saves. You go to the third period, and that's when things kind of spiraled out of control. I mean, the Rangers, to start the third period, were awful. I mean, terrible. I think that third period, I think they showed on the screen 15 scoring chances for the Hurricanes to 1 by the Rangers. And that was 5 minutes into it. We're not talking 15 minutes into the third period. We're talking about 5 minutes into it, and the Hurricanes already had 15 good chances on that. Rangers had 1. And the 1 was in the first minute, I believe, with Mika Zibanejad, who had kind of not really a breakaway, but it was kind of like a one-on-one and shot it wide. It wasn't, your best opportunity. The chances of it going in were slim. When you see him taking it up ice, you don't expect it to go in. He's got a defender on him. It's a tough play to make. He shot it wide, skated back up the ice, and the Rangers just got dominated in their own zone. And that can't happen. And why this game is so frustrating to lose is because the team that you saw in the third period, that's the Hurricanes team that we're going to have to face all around here. So you had a chance to steal a game in their own building. Because let's be honest, Hurricanes were terrible yesterday. I mean, the Rangers were playing very good in the first 2 periods, don't get me wrong. But there was also an aspect of it that the Hurricanes were just so bad. And you could tell by the crowd. I mean, the crowd, I think, was a little bit in shock of how bad they were. That is not the Carolina Hurricanes team that we saw in the regular season. That is not the Carolina team you saw in the first round, especially at home. They're a very good home ice team. 4-0 in the playoffs so far. Yesterday makes them 5-0. They won 4, obviously, at home against the Bruins, and then they won yesterday. They're 5-0 at home this season. So in the postseason. So you had a chance to steal a game. That third period was just terrible. That third period killed us. And even if the Rangers would have went on to win the game, we wouldn't be talking about the third period that much, but it would still be a topic of conversation just because the Rangers can't let that happen. And the Rangers relied too much on Igor late, and Igor made some great saves, but there's a point, too, where he can't make every save. He can't block every single shot. It's just not going to happen. And he made a brilliant save on the first shot. They got a second chance, and it was just, he couldn't stretch his leg out enough. I mean, it was just a kind of one of those unfortunate situations where he blocked the first shot, went right back to the guy, got a second chance, rebound right away, and went in. And it's tough because the Rangers want to get, once again, and it showed this a lot this regular season, relied a whole lot on Igor. And that's not a problem. But when you're facing up against Carolina Hurricanes team, when they put that much pressure on net, they're going to start to fall. And it showed in the third period. And they just got dominated in their own zone. Like, they came out with no energy. Like, the energy of the crowd was, I mean, through the first 40 minutes, the Ranger fans were making more noise than Carolina. There was no, I mean, it didn't even feel like a playoff game, to be honest with you. And number one, because there was barely any scoring. Not that that means everything, but there was no energy. They completely took the Hurricanes crowd out of the game. To start the third period, 3 minutes in, you had the chants going on, crowd was getting into it. Rangers were all of a sudden pressing a little bit. They were all of a sudden on their heels. It felt like the Rangers were losing. And then sure enough, they end up losing. So that third period, like I said, if we end up losing this series, which I hope it doesn't happen, you just got to hope that we bounce back Friday. You're going to pinpoint, 3 moments really. 3 moments, actually. I said 2 earlier, 3 now. 2 plays, 1 period. You're going to pinpoint the Hedl, great save by Antti, and it's specifically the Kakko play because he just missed an open net. I mean, he missed a wide open net. Hedl, you got to give credit to Antti. He made a great save. Hedl put it on net. I mean, he made a phenomenal save. Probably the best save I've seen against the Rangers this postseason, and even the Rangers have had a couple. I mean, even the Carolina Hurricanes, they had a breakaway that hit off the crossbar, and I think they had a 2-on-1 that hit off the crossbar. I think Aho had the one, I think. But I mean, just they were getting so many chances, and it was like when they were hitting off the crossbar all of a sudden, you're thinking to myself, oh my God, just end this game. And they ended up losing. And then OT, Rangers forced a little bit of pressure like the first minute of OT. It was nothing crazy. They had the puck in Carolina's zone. I think they may have got a shot or two up. Nothing special. And then Carolina ended up just winning it. It was kind of a dopey goal. Yeah, I don't mean dopey in that it was bad, but it was kind of one of those just, these little tic-tacky goals that kind of just bounced up in the air and got past Igor. It wasn't like a beautiful one-timer or a nice backhand. It was kind of just like a deflection or something that kind of bounced over Igor and went in, and the Rangers lose. But those are the 3 things you're going to pinpoint. That save on Hedl, Kakko missing an open net. He had the overtime goal was kind of a breakdown. They got the puck, went in transition, scored, but Kakko missed in the open net hurts. And he's been good. He was good, early on. And the kid line was great, but Kakko missing the open net hurts. The great save on Hedl, and then the third period just getting dominated. I mean, if we played our first 2 periods like that, he's just getting dominated. So the Rangers need to find a way to counter what Carolina did in the third period because they're going to do that a whole lot more this series. That's the Carolina Hurricanes team. And that's why it's so frustrating is we could have stole a game. Even if we played terrible like that in the third period, if we still found a way to win that game, you would have just been like, all right, we'll take it, move on, get ready for the next one because we need to counter what they did in the third period. So we'll see how it all plays out, but a tough one, especially, losing it with, what was it, like 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, or it was under 3 minutes to play. We had the lead. They win. It was just so frustrating as a Ranger fan because we had so many chances, and then you just get dominated in the third period. And against these good teams, talented teams on the road, when you could steal a game, and you saw how much problems Bruins had going on the road and winning. I mean, they're 5-0 this season at home. Bruins were a completely different team at home at the TD Garden. Rangers had a chance to steal one, couldn't do it. So now that makes game 2 big. It's very big, not as big if the Rangers fell down 1-0 at home because if they lost game 2, then you would have to go on the road down 2-0. But for the Rangers, it still makes game 2 big because, if you could split it, you'll be fine with that. If you could split the series, split these 2 games, tomorrow, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern will be game 2. If you could split these 2 games, you got to feel, not feel great, but you could feel at least like, all right, we split, we're going home, which we've had a lot of success. So you can kind of feel good about that. We're 3-1 at home in this postseason, so you can kind of feel like, all right, we go home, we're 3-1 there, we're a better home team this postseason, it showed. If you could split and you could win Friday, that puts this, that evens up the series going back at the Garden. And then you have a chance, there to, I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself. Don't want to. But tomorrow's still a big game because going home 2-0 makes both games a must-win because you can't go back to Carolina down 3-1. Just not going to be able to work. I know we made a 3-1 comeback, but it's going to be much harder to do that against Carolina. So, big game tomorrow. Bounce back. You got to find a way to counter what they did in the third period because that's what they're going to do a whole lot more of. First two periods were not the Hurricanes. Last period was, and even into overtime. So, got to find a way to counter that. And, Friday you got to bounce back and win. You split the series going home. You got to feel fine with that. But you got to find a way to bounce back. And, they can't keep getting dominated. And it's so frustrating, too, because it's like, all right, it's one thing if a team has a long stretch in your zone, but clear the puck. Get the puck out. Get a line change. Rangers couldn't even do that. And the issue is by the time they got control of the puck and were able to clear it, they had to clear it up ice, kind of chip it into their own into Carolina's zone because they had to get a line change. So they had no chance of getting any offense going, unless if it was a magical breakout 2-on-1 or something, which they never had. And in the penalties too. I mean, the penalties in this game, there was 3, I think, or what was it? I think there was two penalties in this game. They both came early. You had the penalty where the Rangers went on the power play, then Strome ended up getting a penalty during that power play, which offset it. So both teams have abbreviated power plays. That was it. So, frustrating. But game 2, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, ESPN. Rangers look to bounce back. If you can bounce back, split the series, you move on from it, and you get going back home, I'd be fine with that. So, we'll see how it all plays out. But Fridays, it turns into a really must-win because falling down in 2-0 holes are not easy to come back from. So, Rangers got to make sure to take care of business coming up and reset, regroup, and find a way to counter what they did in the third period because that's the team that you're going to see the rest of the way of this series. So, all right, so that will do it for the Rangers. Coming up next, we're going to get into the Jets and Giants update. Haven't talked much football in a while, rightfully so. We're in the baseball season. This is kind of the time of year for football where the draft's done, all free agency and stuff's done. I mean, there's still a couple guys out there, but nothing crazy. I know Baker Mayfield, there's some stuff about him, but that's something that if a deal gets done, you talk about it instead of all these crazy rumors that are going around about it. But so we're kind of in that aspect where we're kind of waiting for, training camp and stuff, and you're kind of, in the middle of OTAs and you're waiting the training camp and you're trying to find that kind of time here to get some topics in. So, and obviously with baseball season, we're going to talk a lot more baseball during the season, but I want to get to Jets and Giants update, a little bit about OTAs, mostly about their schedules, and we'll add a little bit about OTAs and just overall kind of update on both teams. We'll get to that and much more coming up next. All right, so welcome you back here up at the BSN podcast here today, coming off of kind of a 50-50 sports night now last night because I'm so fired up about the Yankees, so fired up. But the Rangers disappoint, and that's kind of it. And then Max Scherzer goes down, which is, doesn't really mean much for the Yankees, but for baseball's sake, is you hope he's not severely injured because for the Mets' sake and baseball's sake, he's a fun pitcher to watch. He's great for my fantasy team, all that good stuff. We're going to get to the schedule, though, for both these teams. Kind of an update as well. OTAs have began for all teams around the league. You see some video clips of Wilson throwing to receivers. And, this is the part of the offseason where you're kind of in that limbo of not a great amount, not a whole lot to talk about. It's been a week since I've revealed the schedule. It's been a week since the NFL, revealed the schedule. They revealed it last Thursday. Today is Thursday. So it's been a week. But you see all these OTA stuff, these videos, and you can't read too much into it, but you see Wilson throwing to guys. And, it's all about, right now, it's all about just building chemistry with receivers and building, bonding with guys and, seeing what guys are good at, what they're not great at, kind of timing and all that stuff. That's kind of what this stuff is now because, Wilson's throwing to new guys like Izama and Conklin and throwing to new guys like Garrett Wilson and even some other, not as big name guys. Even Mims he hasn't thrown to a ton. He's going to throw to him a lot more this offseason. So now's kind of the time with no non-contact and kind of just running routes. Now's the time to kind of really see guys, just build chemistry, get that, kind of get that feeling of, just get that feeling of what they're good at, their routes, how quick they are. Because, each receiver is different, right? You could be used to throwing to a guy who maybe breaks out on his route earlier than a guy who maybe breaks out on his route later. You could be throwing to a guy that's very good, you might throw to a guy that's good when he catches the ball up here. So you got to make sure you put it high, then he is down low. Some guys are good at going down and getting the ball. Some guys are good at getting the ball up here. Some guys aren't. Some guys are bad at up here, good down here, bad kind of going out for the ball, and good up here. So it's kind of all learning on that kind of stuff. Where you throw it to a guy, if you put some air under it, can he get under it in time? All that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how it is now because you have no defenses. It's just running routes. So you can kind of learn what guys' strengths and weaknesses are, and that's the same thing for the Giants. And look, for the Giants, they're in a similar situation like the Jets were in last year, right? They got a lot of young talent. They drafted Thibodeau. They took Evan Neal. They have a lot of young talent. They have a lot of guys on that team that can make an impact, not just this year, but in the future. I could see this year for the Giants almost being like last year for the Jets, maybe a 4-6 win season where they're just kind of seeing what pieces fit, what pieces don't fit. And then next year was kind of really be their big that really big take off year where you see what pieces fit, you see what pieces don't fit. All right, let's put it together and let's make a contender. That's kind of what the Jets did last year. They saw what pieces fit. It was tough. It was kind of that rebuilding type year where you kind of were okay with, letting a season, you were kind of okay with having maybe a little bit of a tough season, but it was all about letting young guys play, and that's what the Giants are going to do. And you're seeing that already, right? You're going to let the young guys play. Dable and Joe Shane have made it clear that they want the guys to play. They want to see, what pieces fit, what pieces don't fit. And then, at the end of the year, whenever the season's over, you kind of you meet and you see what pieces are going to stay, what pieces aren't. And the big question is going to be what happens with Daniel Jones, because if he has a good year this year, well, then it raises a whole lot of questions about, what you do contract-wise, extension. If he has a good year, I imagine you keep him, but at what cost? If he has a bad year, I don't foresee them hanging on to him. So all those things get put into account. And the Jets and Giants schedules got released. And I'm going to talk about them too. So I just kind of that was kind of my general update. So Giant fans, you got to prepare for a more of a struggling season. And I don't mean struggling in terms of how bad they were last year with, Joe Judge, but in terms of, letting young guys play. And it's going to be difficult at times. But if you let the young guys play, you see progress, that's kind of what the Jets did last year. As long as what you saw week 1 to what you see the final week of the season is better, then that's all that matters. And for the Jets, there was aspects of it. It wasn't the smoothest improvement. There was a lot of bumps in the road. There was a lot of, we're here, now we're here. We're here, now we're here. We're here, now we're here. For the Giants, I guess you got to hope that it's more of a smoother improvement. Week 1, whatever you see week 1, what you see week 17 or week 18 is completely different. Jets, there was moments. Wilson, what he saw, what he showed beginning of part of the season to what he showed end of the season was much better, which is good. You want to see that. The only thing you don't want to see is start off the year really good and then get worse. That's not what you want to see. You want to see improvement. So that's kind of what the Giants are in right now. And for the Jets, this is a year for the Jets to kind of be in that conversation for the wild card. And you could call me crazy. Say whatever you want. But this is kind of their type of year for that. And I'm not saying they're going to make the wild card. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. I don't think this year is their year. Maybe next season, but not this year. Because I think this season is going to probably be, I think it's accurate to say, anywhere from 7 to, at best, 9 wins. I see more of a 7 to 8 win team this year. But what I see is in December, you're playing meaningful games. I see in December maybe you enter 7 and 8, or you're 7 and 7, or you're 6 and 6, or you're 7 and 6, and whatever it is. I see that kind of team from the Jets where, you're playing some meaningful games, and when you show on Sunday Night Football or whenever they show the standings, the Jets logo is in the hunt. That's what I want to see this year. Obviously, you want to see a whole lot more. You want to see championships and stuff, but to keep it realistic, you want to see that, when they show in the hunt and they show, who's leading the division, who's in the wild card, and then who's in the hunt, I want to see the Jets logo on there. I want to see NY Jets on there. And I don't think that's a crazy expectation and crazy expectation and prediction just because of the fact that they've vastly improved defensively, offensively. You have a lot of guys going into their second year, and the Giants will be in the same place this time next season because they're going to be in the situation where they saw what pieces fit, what pieces don't fit, and they go and run with it. That's how you build the foundation. That's what the Jets did. So the Jets built the foundation. Now it's time to continue to build on that and really start to achieve your goals of doing even better things. So let's go through the schedules here. So we're going to start off with the Jets, go to the Giants. I think I'm going to start off with the Jets, read through their schedule, go through the Giants' schedule, then I'm going to kind of break down each of the schedules. All right, so Jets open up the season at home against the Baltimore Ravens. So they get a home opener, which is great. First time we have a home opener since 2 years ago. We didn't have one 2020. We didn't have one 2021. Week 1 of 2020 was at the Bills. Week 1 of 2021 was last year was at Carolina. This year we're in Baltimore. 2019 was our last home opener. That was against the Bills. That was the Kari Vedvik game. That just set the tone for the whole terrible year under Gaze. But week 1 will be against the Ravens. Week 2 will be away against the Browns. Week 3 will be home against the Bengals. Week 4 will be away against the Steelers. And the first 4 games are all against AFC North opponents. So we get our AFC North opponents out of here quickly. And I actually think that's kind of an advantage to the Jets. I'll tell you why in a little bit. Week 5 will be versus the Dolphins. Week 6 will be at Lambeau against the Packers. I know a lot of Jet fans are planning on going to that historic site. And the Jets stay out, not really out west, but they kind of stay out, on the road for a little bit there. They go at Green Bay, then they're at Denver. So I would assume they probably go home after that. Some teams I know stay out there. It's not like they're crazy out west, but to go to Lambeau, come all the way back to go all the way out to Denver might be a lot of travel. We'll see what the Jets do there, but that's kind of it's probably your toughest road stretch, right there in terms of travel. But you're at Green Bay, at Denver, then you come home for 2, which is at home against New England, at home against Buffalo, and then you have a bye week. So I feel like the Jets have 2 difficult games prior to the bye, which I think is big because, if those 2 games, take a lot out of you, you have that bye to recover, reset, and then you come out of the bye ready to roar and ready to go away against the Patriots, which was the same thing last year. They came out of the bye week last year, and they ended up playing New England. So this season, same thing. Came out of the bye, and they're going to play New England. So their bye week's got some tough opponents because you go to, obviously you're going to have you have Green Bay, Denver, Patriots, Buffalo, and then you have a bye week. So those 3-4 weeks prior to the bye, you're going to be putting a lot out there. That bye's kind of in a good spot. Then you come out with New England. So you also got to be ready because you're going to come out with New England on the road. And then you're at home against Chicago. And then this is where their schedule gets kind of favorable here later on. Home against Chicago. Then you have 2 away against Minnesota, away against Buffalo. Minnesota, I think, is a beatable team. Chicago's very beatable. Then you have 2 back-to-back games, which I think this is a very good scheduling thing for the Jets here. They're home against Detroit, and then they have a Thursday night game. This is their only primetime game against Jacksonville, and they're at home there. So they don't have to worry about travel and all that stuff on Thursday night. Home against Detroit, home against Jacksonville. That's a Thursday night game. So those are 2 very winnable games. And then you go to the away against Seattle, and then away against the Dolphins. So that's how you finish out your season. So the Jets finish out their season, second half of the year, after the bye week. You see 4 very, very realistic, 4 must-wins. You should beat the Bears, you should beat the Lions, you should beat the Jags, you should beat the Seahawks. Dolphins are also beatable. Minnesota's beatable. New England, Buffalo's going to be tough. New England's going to be tough just because the Jets never have success against New England. I don't care how good they are, and they never have success. So until they start to have success, you can start to circle New England as a beatable opponent. They are beatable, no. New England's not anything special. You contain their run game, they're nothing special. Mac Jones isn't really that great. Ceiling's a lot lower than a lot of other guys. But, second half of the season, definitely schedule softens up for the Jets. And that's why I think you're going to see a lot of their wins. They can come out of the first part of the season, I don't know, let's say 4 wins. Let's say you beat Miami, beat the Browns, beat the Steelers, that's 3. Maybe you steal one against New England, that's 4. And then you take 4 out. You take 4 out on the second part of the season. You're looking at 8 wins. So that's where the Jets' schedule, like I said, you look at it, it's, you could pick out some wins there. So that's the Jets schedule. Giants schedule, like I said, NFC, I don't think I've said this, but NFC has 9 home games this year. AFC has 8. Flips every year. All right, so the Giants start off the season on the road against Tennessee. Then the Giants have 3 straight home games. So a very, very, very good scheduling thing here. 3 straight home games. They're at home against Carolina, week 2. Then they have a Monday Night Football game at home against Dallas, and then they have home against Chicago. So 3 of their first 4 games are at home. Very, very generous of the NFL to give them that. Then they go on the road to Lambeau to play the Packers, and they lucked out that this is going to be a road game. This is not going to count as one of their home games, which they lucked out, because if it did, then that really means they only have 8 legit home games. So Green Bay, that's going to count as a home game for them, which is lucky for the Giants. So Green Bay, they'll play them in London, and then you have Baltimore at home, and then you'll be away for Jacksonville and Seattle. Then you have your bye week. So you have your bye week, week 9. And I think it's very, very favored. This is one of the stretches for the Giants where they can go on a 4-run tear. Because you go to Jacksonville, Seattle, 2 very winnable games. Then you have a bye week, and then you go Tennessee, Detroit, 2 very winnable games. You can look at yourself there, 4-game win streak going into a big Thanksgiving Day matchup against Dallas. And then coming out of that, which is on the road, then come out of that, you have 2 home games against Washington and the Eagles, and then 2 road games, Washington, and you have a Saturday game against Minnesota day before Christmas, and then you have a home game against Indianapolis, and you finish off the season on the road, week 18, against the Eagles. So Giants have a favorable schedule, because you have 2 road games, Jacksonville, Seattle, very winnable, right? Then you have a bye week. Then you have 2 home games, Houston, Detroit coming out of that. Those are 4 wins right there. And then you have a tough matchup against the Cowboys. You win that Cowboys game, then you look at Washington and Philadelphia, 2 beatable teams. You could look at a 5-game win streak there in the middle of the year for the Giants. If everything falls in place. They can't have that, like that Detroit game, because that's going to be a Thursday game, I believe. That's going to be a Thursday game, right? That Thanksgiving Day game, I believe it will be. So you can't get caught looking ahead that Detroit game. That's going to be a sign of coaching. If they win those 4 games and then they go to Dallas, that's big. If they struggle those 4 games or coming out of the bye week, they're slow and sluggish, that's going to be tough. You can't get caught looking ahead of that Detroit game, because that Detroit game's at home. You can't get caught looking ahead against a big Thanksgiving matchup against a division rival in Dallas. I will tell you one thing about the Giants' schedule. Their holiday schedule. Not that this means anything for win-loss record, but they really got a tough break with the holidays, because they're on the road for Thanksgiving. Then they got a game the day before Christmas. So they got a really tough break in terms of the holiday schedule, but that doesn't mean anything for wins losses. But just for the guys, just for the players in general, to kind of get maybe a little bit of a break, they don't really have much of that. So that's kind of the part of the Giants schedule, right? You have those 4 games: Jacksonville, Seattle, bye week, Houston, Detroit. If you can't come out of that at least 3-1, that's bad. And obviously, we're talking about week 7 here. So a lot can change from week 1 all the way until week 7 when those games start to take place. First part of the schedule for the Giants is tough. It is. Second part, definitely easier. Same thing for the Jets. First part is, I think, much easier than the second part. Giants get a lot of their NFC East opponents in the second half. They get Washington and Eagles for the final 6 weeks. So they don't see Washington or Philadelphia until week 13 through week 18. So that's an interesting thing to the schedule there, where they get Dallas out of the way week 3 and then week 12, and then they play Washington, Philadelphia, Washington, Minnesota, Indianapolis, Eagles, Philadelphia. So they face 4 of their final 6 games are against Washington and Philadelphia. So you'll know, the Giants, if they're in a spot where maybe they're around 500, those are big games then. Especially early, they need to win the games against Dallas, because you can't fall down early in your division like that. It's gonna be an uphill climb all season long. And for the Jets, there's things, and a lot of people have been talking about how tough the Jets schedule is, and then don't get me wrong, there's definitely aspects of it that are tough. I mean, you got to play Buffalo twice a year. That's tough as it is. You got to play Cincinnati. You're gonna have to play Baltimore. Those are tough games. You're gonna have to play Denver with Russell Wilson. That's not gonna be easy. Green Bay's not gonna be easy on the road. Minnesota's gonna be a toss-up, but they're capable. That's going to be toss-up, but you're on the road in a tough environment. So the Jets schedule, I'm not saying the Jets schedule is a cakewalk, but a lot of people are overhyping the first 4 weeks. A lot of people are saying how hard it is, how difficult it is. First 4 weeks for the Jets, I actually think they not called a break, but I think the way the schedule went, they actually caught slightly a break. Because they play Cleveland week 2. Watson most likely gets suspended for 6 to 8 weeks, 4 to 8 weeks. So you're going to most likely, I think they caught Cleveland at the right time. I'd rather play Cleveland week 2 than play them final couple weeks of the season. Because Watson most likely is going to be available later in the year. Week 2, Watson most likely won't be available. So who's your quarterback for Cleveland? Is it Mayfield? That's going to be weird. He's kind of already said goodbye. Cleveland's kind of already said goodbye to him. It can't be Mayfield. Watson's going to be out. And then you face against Steelers on the road, and they kind of a retooling team. Got some young talent, got Kenny Pickett, rookie quarterback early in the season, might struggle a little bit. I'm not saying that he's not going to be a good quarterback. I'm just saying rookie quarterbacks, if they're going to struggle, it's going to be early in the season, so maybe you catch them at the right time. And those are your 2 road games, and your 2 toughest games are at home. So you're going to have a packed MetLife week 1. Hopefully if the Jets, hopefully week 3 will also be packed. Depending on how the first 2 weeks go. And you get your 2 toughest games at home, so you're going to have the home field advantage. That's what I see with the Jets. I think the first 4 weeks is being overhyped a little bit. I think 2-2 is very realistic coming out of those first 2 weeks. 4 weeks, rather. So, anyway, let's get to the New York sports update and finish things off here. Today in the NBA, got the Heat Celtics. I'll take the Heat. NHL, you got Panthers, Lightning, Avalanche, Blues. I'll take the Lightning and Avalanche. And for the MLB, you got the Padres, Phillies, Reds, Guardians, White Sox, Royals, Mariners, Red Sox, Cubs, Diamondbacks, Rangers, Astros. Mets, Cardinals today, 1:10 p.m. Eastern. Hudson on the mound for the Cardinals. He's 3-2 with a 3.06 ERA. And Chris Bassitt on the mound for the Mets. He's 4-2 with a 2.34 ERA. Over-under is set at 7. Mets go for the series win. Yankees, Orioles today. Let's see here. Yankees, Orioles today. Yankees come into this one 28-9. Orioles 14-24. Jordan Montgomery's on the mound for the Yankees. He's 0-1 with a 3.06 ERA. And Zimmerman's on the mound for the Orioles. He's 2-2 with a 2.73 ERA. Over-under is set at 8. 12:35 p.m. Eastern on Mason and Yes Network. Yankees go for the sweep. I'll take the Yankees there, rolling right now. As for fantasy baseball, in my main league, I am currently winning 184-139. And in my other league, I'm currently winning 154-140. So 2 close games in fantasy baseball. Hopefully I can take advantage and win both. I'm not sure due to timing right now if this pod's going to be up in the morning or if it's going to be up in the afternoon. Either way, though, it will be up. Timing-wise, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get up in the morning here. I might have to do it in the afternoon just because of timing. So I'll see how that plays out. But either way, it's going to be up sometime today. Yeah. But, that will do it for the podcast today. Another good one in the books. Should be able to do one tomorrow. If my schedule works out okay, I should be able to do one tomorrow. So, a couple podcasts here, in a row, which is good. So, that will do it for the podcast here today. I'll see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.